Hello Ascenders, and welcome to our video, How to Win Without Beating Your Kids. The idea here is we want to achieve a victory without our kids feeling like they have lost, and certainly without resorting to violence. So this four-part series is designed for parents, but it's a great communication framework for all kinds of situations, particularly where conflict management is involved. So we've got two main groups of parents that we're looking at here. The first is those parents who feel like, I don't want to make my kid do things. And the second group is for parents who are looking for more or better tools to help them win their kids' cooperation. So let's jump in. Part 1, Point of View. Obi-Wan Kenobi said, "You will find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view." In this video, we're going to explore what points of view we might be coming from whenever we enter into any kind of interaction, negotiation, conflict. Where are we coming from, and how is that going to create the truth that we are clinging to in that interaction? So many of you have probably already heard the hammer problem before. Basically, it goes like this. If a hammer is the only tool you've got, then every problem looks like a nail. Similarly, if all you've got is a shovel, then every problem looks like it needs to be dug. The idea here is that when we are using a limited set of tools, the problems that we encounter are going to look a certain way. And if we have other tools and we develop other tools, then we might be able to see problems from a different point of view, and they may look different to us. So in our discussion today, we're going to go over mindset, which is how our brain is going to organize information that we're gathering, action, which is how we respond to that information, and then the role, which is the example that we're choosing to set for others through our actions, and how the role that we choose can be influenced or more likely limited through our mindset and then through the actions that we're choosing to take because of that mindset. So we're going to start off with mindset, which is the lens through which we view the world. DeWitt Jones said, the lens we choose transforms the way we look at things. So I want you to go into this with the idea of understanding what is my mindset, how do I see the world, and how might I be missing things because of the limitations of the mindset that I have. So when it comes to mindset, there's literally thousands of different points of view that we might be looking at the world from. We're going to narrow that down to make this a reasonable length, and we're going to talk about two opposing mindsets. So the first is abundance mindset, and the opposition is the scarcity mindset. So in the abundance mindset, we're looking at the world as though resources are plentiful. We can share whatever we have with confidence that more are going to be available when we need them, and we'll be able to get them. And so this looks at the world from the idea that, you know, there's plenty for everybody to go around. And so if somebody is down on their luck or they're having a hard time, we can share with them. We can give them what we have. The scarcity mindset is looking at this from the opposite point of view, in that resources are limited. So we must protect what we have, and if we find other things, we kind of got to hoard that for later, because we never know when additional resources are going to be available. So it's kind of clear that if you're coming at the world from an abundance mindset, you're going to have more generous thinking patterns. You're going to probably feel more comfortable taking risks because you're going to be optimistic about the outcome. Whereas a scarcity mindset is going to lead to thinking that is more of withholding. So we're going to have to really measure our actions when we're going to be generous and when we're not going to be. So we tend to avoid taking risks because the outcome isn't certain. We're going to be pessimistic about what that's going to do. I think it's pretty clear that depending on which mindset you're coming from or which one you're adopting, we're going to really look at the world and problems in the world in a very different way. And that's going to limit our actions, or the actions that we're willing to take, because of the mindset that we've chosen. Now, I want to jump in here and say I'm not advocating for one mindset or the other. They both have their pros and cons. I just want you to be aware of what's going on in my mind when I have a conflict with somebody? Am I looking at things from this abundance mindset, or am I looking at things from this scarcity mindset? And how does that affect the choices that I make later on? So if we have an abundance mindset, we may have rapid growth. We may seize opportunities when the times are good because we're always feeling that that's going to be the right thing to do. We're going to take advantage of this opportunity. We're going to take this risk because we assume that there's going to be a reward at the end. However, in lean times, when things are scarce, we might find ourselves in trouble because we haven't saved enough for these times, or we've given away stuff with the hopes that it was going to return, and it didn't. So abundance mindset can be very powerful in the good times, but it can also be harmful to you in the bad times. Whereas the scarcity mindset, our excessive caution could lead to missed opportunities, which means that we don't have as much as we could have had we had the willingness to take those risks more. However, in the lean times, we may have those reserves that we can survive on because we didn't give it all away. Now, when you're coming into conflict with other people, particularly parents, when you're talking about your kids, you want to be aware, am I coming at this interaction with an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset? Next, we want to talk about action. So again, this is the way we respond to the things that we see in the world. And Pablo Picasso said, action is the foundational key to all success. So let's see if we can make sure we have some success. So similar to mindset, action can take all sorts of forms, but we're going to talk about two kind of broad categories, collaborative action and competitive action. And you may notice that the mindset that you choose is going to lead to one of these more frequently than the other. So in collaborative action, we're looking for the win-win-win, so everybody wins. The idea that a rising tide lifts all ships. We're really looking for that place where nobody loses. In a competitive action, we're often looking at this as a zero-sum game. So 1 plus minus 1 equals 0. So if I'm the winner, you're the loser. So if you're thinking like, okay, this competition is between me and my children, well, if I win this competition, then my children are going to lose this competition. And so for some parents, this can be a very negative feeling. Whereas in the collaborative action, you're looking for that outcome, which is going to be like, I win, I get what I want, my kids get what they want, and so we're all going to find harmony here. Now again, just like with mindset, I'm not looking at these as though one is good and the other one is bad. I'm very much of the opinion that collaborative action is totally appropriate under certain circumstances, and competitive action can be very appropriate under other circumstances. I just want to, again, give us this idea of recognizing, am I the person who's looking for this win-win, or am I assuming that if I win, they lose, or if they win, I lose? So it's just, again, to help us understand what is our mindset and what are the actions that we tend toward. So I'm a big movie guy. If you've listened to my videos, you probably hear a lot of quotes and things, but collaborative action always reminds me of Apollo 13, this idea that your team must believe it and we must make it happen. So in this kind of action, there may be a very deadly circumstance, but we all are going to share in the success or the failure because we're working together. So in this idea that these astronauts are, stranded in a failing capsule out in space, it's not like NASA wins and the astronauts must lose. Either everybody's going to win or everybody's going to lose. Not everybody's going to lose their life, but they're going to be part of that mission. They're going to feel that responsibility for the loss of those lives. So it's really very much we're all in this together. Whereas competitive action always reminds me of Highlander and this idea there can be only one. So the idea that if it's more like a pyramid, there's only room for one person at the top, and that's great if it's you, but it's not so good for everybody else. And so this idea, again, of the zero-sum game, if I'm the winner, you're the loser, and if you're the winner, then I must be the loser. It can be very narrowing in our choices. Collaborative action is great when we're doing some team building or community building, we're developing trust, and it usually has very open communication because there's no reason not to share all the information we've got, because if we're all working together, we're all on the same team, then two heads are better than one, and if we put all of our cards on the table, then we can all use that information and come up with ideas that by myself I might not have. Whereas competitive action is great for learning to overcome failure. You have to experience those losses to help you drive yourself toward the win. It's great for building sportsmanship because we don't always win, and we want to check who are we when we win and who are we when we lose, and is that person different, and is that appropriate, or should we really be a very humble winner, and should we be a humble loser? Should we be happy for the people who did win? The communication tends to include a lot of subterfuge because having an advantage in knowledge that the others don't have may be totally appropriate. That's going to help you win. So when we talk about things like sparring, we talk about fakes. You want to mislead your opponent, whereas if we're in collaborative action, that doesn't really serve any purpose. Misleading our teammates is only going to lead us to failure along with them. That brings us to role, or the example that we teach others to help them make their way in the world. Bob Keeshan said, "Parents are the ultimate role models for children. Every word, movement, and action has an effect. No other person or outside force has a greater influence on a child than the parent." So for parents, I want you to be thinking about, how does my mindset affect what I see going into my interactions with my kids? How do the actions that come out of that mindset impact my children? And how does that set an example for them and their behavior in the future? Because like it or not, whether they like it or not, they're going to become you. And so my encouragement would be the best you that you can be so that they can become the best them that they can be. So there's two pieces that I want to go over here. And the first is to consider yourself. Think about how you do things. Do you have unconscious patterns of behavior? Do you have outdated biases? Do you have unhealthy triggers? The more you know about who you are, the more you can choose who you're becoming. And so I really recommend that you take some time and you analyze interactions that you've had in the past. So this is something that I do a lot. I'll have an interaction with somebody, whether I think it's a positive interaction or a negative interaction, whether I feel like it was a really positive outcome or a negative outcome, whether I'm happy with that outcome or wish that something had happened differently. I replay the events in my mind. I replay what I heard, I replay what I said, and I consider, could I have said something different that would have led to an outcome that I liked better? Was I happy with those things that I said? Why did I say what I said? What was the motivation behind my words? How did I hear what I heard? Did I feel like I was being threatened or offended or attacked, or did I feel calm and comfortable with what I was hearing? Why did I interpret it that way? Could there be another interpretation that I didn't consider at the time? So there's a lot of things that go on with us, and the more we can understand the reasoning behind those things, the better we can control our behavior and make ourselves into the person we really want to be. And that brings us to the second piece, which is projecting your image. Making a decision of which version of yourself you want to show the world, particularly to your kids. So am I going to choose to be the person who is slow to anger? Am I going to choose to be the person who has a hair trigger? Am I going to choose to be the person who thoughtfully considers what I'm hearing before I respond? Or am I going to be the person who's got an answer for everything right off the top? So there's a lot of ways in which we can manipulate our own thinking and manipulate our actions to create the image that we want to project. And this is going to be important. Like I said before, your kids are going to become you. So if you want your kid to be like you, then be the you want them to be. So you may notice that my daughter is super snarky, and I take full responsibility for that. So I choose how I respond in interactions with her, and I see her responding in similar ways. So there are times when I have to reflect, is this okay? Is this what I want my daughter to become? And there are times when I'm like, okay, this is going too far in one direction. Let's set up some more examples of some more moderate behavior, or some behavior that goes in the other direction. All right, a lot of food for thought there. Go ahead and digest that for a little bit, and then join us for part 2, Plan to Win. We'll talk about how anticipating conflicts will help us to prepare for them instead of being taken by surprise. I don't know about you, but I've certainly been caught off guard and had some interactions that I wish had gone differently. So we'll talk about how to set that up and be prepared. All right, catch you then.